Right, good evening everybody and welcome to this meeting of Cheltenham Borough Council's Licensing Miscellaneous Subcommittee, which is being held today, Wednesday the 2nd of October 2024. My name is Councillor Dr David Willingham and I am Chair of this committee. The meeting is being streamed live to Cheltenham Borough Council's YouTube channel and the recording of the meeting will be held for 4 years. If there are any breaks in the transmission to the YouTube stream, the meeting will be adjourned for a short period until any technical issues are resolved. To the public present, if you are here to make a representation to the meeting, you are consenting to the use of the sound and video recordings for broadcasting and training purposes. Please be aware CCTV and audio recording is now in operation in the public gallery. Recordings will be held by the Council for 5 months. A fire alarm test is not expected. If the fire alarm does sound, you should immediately make your way to the nearest exit. And for those that are not members of the Council, the staff will assist you in leaving the building. The exits have got green signs. If you have a mobile phone or IT that makes a noise, if you could please put it on silent so that it doesn't disturb the meeting. And finally, apologies for the late start of this meeting. The previous alcohol and gambling subcommittee had some issues to deal with, and we can only do one meeting at once, so this one's running a little bit late. With that, we'll move to the substantive agenda. So there are no apologies from absence because everybody is here. Are there any declarations of interest from my colleagues? No declarations of interest. So we move on to agenda item 3, which is an application for a hackney carriage vehicle. So because this is a regulatory item, members must be present and have heard the proceedings in their entirety to vote on this item. We will ensure that the applicant and the applicant's representative, if they have one, are present in the meeting, and we have the applicant here. I will ask the licensing officer to introduce the report. Members will get an opportunity to ask the licensing officer questions, and the applicant or their representative will also get an opportunity to ask the licensing officer any questions. We'll give the applicant their opportunity to present their case, and we ask them to try and limit this to no more than 10 minutes. Members of the committee can then ask the applicant questions. We will debate the matter. The applicant will be given their final right of reply, and then we will take a vote and give the decision. So if I can ask our licensing officer to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. So what we've got here is an application for a new hackney carriage vehicle licence, which was submitted by Mr Nizam Ali on the 11th of September this year. The application is referred to the licensing committee because the vehicle referred to does not comply with the authority's licensing policy. The policy currently requires all applications for new hackney carriage vehicles to be fully wheelchair accessible. The committee has recommended to resolve that the application be granted because the committee considers there to be sufficient grounds to deviate from the adopted policy, or that the application is refused because the vehicle does not comply with the authority's adopted policy. The report goes into the current policy a little bit, referring to the 4 licensing objectives and how they impact on current taxi and private hire applications, notably outlining that the current hackney carriage vehicle policy is that all new applications are disabled accessible as per the London Public Carriage Office specification, Eurocab M1. The committee must determine its application on its individual merits and with a view of promoting the authority's adopted policy. Deviation from the policy must be restricted to exceptional circumstances and must be fully reasoned. Mr Ali has previously held a saloon hackney carriage vehicle licence that he surrendered in advance of a previous requirement back in December 2021, that all hackney carriage vehicles would be disabled accessible. His previous hackney carriage vehicle licence was for a different saloon vehicle. With reference to that, the authority's previous policy aimed to ensure 100% wheelchair accessible taxi fleet was postponed back in December 2021, following further consultation with the licensed trade. An interim policy was adopted and is still in force, while a more comprehensive review of hackney carriage's fleet's future accessibility requirements is undertaken. The consultation on the more comprehensive review recently closed and will be put to Cabinet for full consideration in due course. Notwithstanding the above, the current policy position is as outlined in 2.5 above and the basis for the committee's considerations. Having previously held a saloon hackney carriage vehicle licence, which was surrendered to comply with policy, that was then subsequently changed, Mr. Ali's application is, in principle, to regain his right to a saloon hackney carriage vehicle licence. As already stated, the starting point for the committee must be the current licensing policy requirements and the overarching principle of each case on its own merits. Within this, the committee has discretion to deviate from adopted policy in cases where there are deemed to be exceptional and justifiable circumstances. In coming to a determination, the committee must, in addition to the policy, take into account the evidence it hears on the day and any mitigating factors it considers relevant. Based on the current policy position, the officer recommendation would be to refuse this application. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. Are there any questions from members for the officer? Okay. Can I just, for the record, confirm we are currently undertaking as you said, a more comprehensive review of the licensing policy, and the general suggestion of that is to move back to a more mixed fleet rather of the hackney carriages, which would allow some drivers to retain saloon vehicles if they currently have them.
Yeah, so the consultation has recently finished. There's more work to go into the policy before the final draft is complete and implemented. However, the current proposal is that existing WAV drivers who previously had a saloon vehicle would be able to revert to a saloon vehicle as long as the WAV remains on the fleet and is licensed, whilst all new applications would still be required to be WAVs.
Are there any further questions from my colleagues? No. Right. Okay. Mr. Ali, firstly, if you have any questions for the officers, please ask them. Otherwise, it's your opportunity to address the committee and just tell us your background. We may well have some questions for you afterwards. So if you press the button.
Okay, first of all, good evening, everybody. I do not have any questions. I've been a hackney driver for about 14, 15 years. Obviously, because of the WAV policy, I've had to surrender my licence slightly earlier due to financial issues, as well as uncomfortable vehicle. Had a bit of a sciatic nerve issue. And since then, I've been doing private hire, struggling, paying company a lot of rent, trying to meet my financial needs. I'd be really grateful if you would reinstate my hackney vehicle licence so that I can, do less hours and try and make a living without having to pay rent and other expenses. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Councillor Boyce.
Thank you. So just to clarify, the reasons that you're stating are financial reasons and uncomfortable vehicle. Is that what I heard? Those are the two main reasons.
My licence renewal, I think it was about 4 or 5 months before I handed the licence back because of the WAV policy. And that's because, I had finance on the car, and if I was to hand it in, I didn't want to continue with the finance. Also, the vehicle was uncomfortable at the time, caused me pain. So a bit of everything, I handed it in early, but I still had to hand it in because of the WAV policy. The reason I didn't get a WAV vehicle, because one, I was, paying finance, struggling anyway. WAV vehicles were costing a lot more. I was doing airport transfers as well, so it wasn't suitable. So, everything just added up. Thank you.
Can you push the
Sorry.
button? So it takes a bit of getting used to. So, are there any more questions from? Yeah, Councillor Sankey.
Thank you. Hi, good evening. Yeah, you said you found it uncomfortable. Is this a medical condition? Is there anything that you can share with us?
Sorry. The vehicle I bought at the time, it was a standard sort of, the seat was really hard. It was digging into my leg, which eventually gave me so much pain and caused sciatic nerve. That was one of the issues. Okay. Sorry. Press again.
Here we go. It's very complicated. Yeah, and is that an issue now, the sciatic nerve? Is that an ongoing issue? Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? So my only question to you is, obviously the policy changed in 2021, and it's been quite a while. Can you just give us a sort of idea why it's taken until now to come back to committee?
Okay, as I was doing private hire, I wasn't aware that, drivers were getting license back at the WAP. It's only when I found out that the WAP policy is being reversed, that's when I inquired. I didn't know before that.
Right, thank you very much. Sorry, there we go. Are there any further questions? No, right. So at this point, we need to move to debate. So before I move to debate, if I can remind members, it's important that you give due regard to the council's licensing policy, and if you deviate from that, you give clear reasons for doing so. It's important that you only take into account material licensing considerations, and that your decisions are reasonable, proportionate and rational. So anyone wish to commence?
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Chair. I was just really going to sort of expand on that and just say if we want to deviate, we're going to have exceptional circumstances. We would have to agree that those circumstances explained to us just now are exceptional circumstances, and those being financial reasons and uncomfort in that vehicle, which has produced obviously a medical issue for the driver. So those are things we're going to have to consider.
I think it's probably, Councillor Wheeler.
My only real comment was I think we've dealt with a couple of these. In fact, I think one not that long ago, almost identical situation. The gentleman wasn't aware of the changes, and we allowed that. So I think it would be difficult for us to not accept his application.
I think, as well as the health issues the drivers raised, the fact that we've not the fact that our policy has been in a bit of flux, and I think that we may well have lost a bit of goodwill with the trade because of these variations. And I think people that are trying to work in taxi trade, given we are reversing the policy, it would seem a bit odd not to allow someone that we've disadvantaged to come back to that, given what we're proposing to do. We've also got the health impact. Financial things we're not really allowed to take into consideration as a material grounds, but I think given where the policy is heading, I would be happy to grant this because it would seem irrational given what we've previously decided. I don't know if anyone else has any other comments. Councillor Wheeler.
A question I should have asked the applicant. The health issues, you're saying that currently driving in a non-WAV vehicle, you've had problems with your sciatic nerve. If you carry on the same, I can't see how that's going to make a difference.
So I think we've got to be careful because we're in open session and discussing someone's health details in personal health matters in detail is possibly not the thing that we want to do. So
a reason that he gave, and I'm just wondering how that works, how it would make any difference.
I think we can ask the applicant to address that when he's summing up. We just got to be very careful with people's medical difficulties in open session. Any other member comments? Okay. So, Mr. Ali, you've hopefully heard what we've had to say. There's not a lot of it, but if you now have your final right of reply before we move to the vote. So, if there's anything else that you would like to say, and if you're able to answer my colleague's question about the health issues, bearing in mind that we've got to respect your privacy around that because this is open session.
Okay, so for the vehicle at the time, like I said, was like a standard vehicle. It was a basic vehicle. Seats were uncomfortable. Now the vehicle I've got, or the vehicles I'm driving, they're a lot more comfortable. It's got heated seats. I do get, I mean, if you want me to tell you, I do get massages, Thai massage, which is loosening and improving it as well at the same time. But the vehicle itself is a comfortable vehicle. Okay.
Press the button again. There we go. Thank you. So if I suggest that we move to the vote, and if I take the vote on 1.4.1, so I'll read read it, which is the committee is recommended to resolve that. And then 1.4.1 is the application be granted because the committee considers there to be sufficient grounds to deviate from the adopted policy. So could I have, I'm assuming we're doing show of hands, not electronic voting?
We can do electronic voting, of course.
So, yeah. There we go. So all 5 members have voted. I'm assuming it's on the screen behind me. That has been unanimously approved. So, Mr. Ali, the council, the committee have decided to approve that application. The licensing officers will be in contact with you in due course. There may be some other things that you need to do in respect to the vehicle to make sure that it's all of the other things are signed off, but the officers will be with you in due course. They may actually be able to talk to you now, but there'll be some stuff, some further things, administrative things that need dealing with. Okay. We now need, so this session is now finished. We now need to move into the.
Mr. Ali, you can leave if you want to. You don't need to.
Yeah, you're free to stay. Free to go, rather. Free to stay. Sorry, no, you're not free to stay. No. Right, we now need to move to the exempt information resolution, which is.
Sorry.
I'm tempted to just have a couple of minutes because it's been a long day for some of us. So if I read the statement, which is that in accordance with section 100A brackets 4 Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting for the remaining agenda items as it is likely that in view of the nature of the business to be transacted or the nature of the proceedings, if members of the public are present, there will be disclosed to them exempt information as defined in paragraph 1 and 2, part 1, schedule 12A, Local Government Act 1972, namely paragraph 1, information relating to any individual, paragraph 2, information which is likely to reveal the identity of an individual. So can I have a show of hands just to show that we go into exempt session? That's unanimous. So to anyone watching on the webcast,